What's up guys, this is Sensei. In today's video, I'm going to be showing you the top 5 brawlers on the tank maps in Solo Showdown. In the previous video, we went through the top 5 brawlers overall, and in this video, we're going to be specifically taking a look at the tank maps and to see what are the best tanks to be pushing to rank 30 and even rank 35 maybe. So first, let's just go over the maps that I would consider to be the 3 tank maps in the game, and then we'll head right into the list. Alright, for the first map, we have a rockwall Brawl, and yeah, as you can see, this one, it has a lot of walls, and this also has an energy drink modifier, very good for tanks. Alright, and for the second map, we have Skull Creek. This one has the mushroom modifier, and as you can see, again, a lot of walls, also a very good map for tanks. And finally, we have Stormy Plains, as you can see, again, a lot of walls. Another really good map for tanks. Anyway, let's head right into number 5. Alright, coming in at number 5, we have Bull. And Bull's always has been a pretty solid option on these tanks maps, and especially since his recent health buff, buffing his health to now 7,000. Bull is definitely going to be very solid. One of the best bush camping brawlers in the game. In terms of close range combat, the only one that can beat Bull in that regard is going to be Shelly. With super, but without supers, Bull is definitely going to be the best one just because he unloads so much damage very quickly. He also has decent range for a tank, which allows him to deal with other tanks like El Primo, and Rosa and Jacky if you keep your range. Especially with his star power tough guy, which gives him a 30% shield when he's under 40% health, and also his gadget, which instantly heals him for 1500, which of course gives him even more healing once he has his shield activated from the star power. Bull is definitely a really solid tank in these tank maps. Alright, coming in at number 4, we have Jacky. Now the interesting thing here is when I was actually calculating the win rates, and basically what I did is I took the ranking of the win rate for every map listed here and I averaged it out. But Jacky actually tied with number 3, but the reason why I put the number 3 spot over Jacky is because I personally thought that number 3 option was better than Jacky. With that being said, though, Jacky is really pretty solid in Solo Showdown on these tank maps, just because mainly due to her ability to shoot around walls. That's really what gives her value, because you take a look at it, she doesn't do a lot of damage. 1680 against tanks, that's not a lot, but her ability to shoot around walls and her range really allows her to actually be pretty decent against tanks in 1v1 interactions. And she does counter a few tanks such as BB. Jacky can counter BB pretty well. And against, shotgunners, if you keep your range, you can also deal with them pretty well. So Jacky still is pretty decent against other tanks, especially when you have the gadget. You can really use that effectively to catch up and kill people that are weak. So Jacky is pretty solid on these tank maps. Let's head into the number 3 brawler. Alright, coming in at number 3, we have Shelly. Although, honestly, I think you could maybe make the argument Shelly could be number 2. But, yeah, I mean, Shelly, as you know, Shelly is one of the best tank counters in the game. And particularly in Solo Showdown. In 3v3, she may not be the best tank counter. But in Solo Showdown, definitely one of the best tank counters on these tank maps. Just because Shelly's build is designed so that she can go toe-to-toe with tanks rather than fight tanks from a distance like other tank counters, and that really is what helps her, because a lot of tank counters don't have a lot of HP and can struggle in the close range, but Shelly has no problem with that, especially since she got her health buff and with her band-aid giving her even more HP. So yeah, okay, Shelly, obviously in these maps with a lot of tanks, you're running a tank counter like Shelly, you're going to be having a pretty good time. Shelly can pretty much counter every tank except for some situations where if they keep the range, they can and if you don't play careful, they can sometimes outplay you. But in general, Shelly is a pretty decent counter to tanks. So yeah, there's some circumstances where people can counter you, but overall Shelly pretty much counters every tank. Alright, coming in at number 2, we have El Primo. Now you might be wondering, well, doesn't Shelly counter El Primo? Well, my answer to that is yes and no. It's very kind of situational. Because if El Primo has his super, El Primo can counter a Shelly. And I think, honestly, El Primo's super is probably the main reason why he's so good on these tank maps. With El Primo's super, El Primo can 1v1 almost any brawler in the game and almost kill, even if it's a ranged brawler, if you use your super correctly, you can kill them. El Primo super is super valuable, and when you're teaming and you can feed off of people's supers. I know in the Europe servers you have a lot of El Primos on maps like these, and they just feed each other super, and you just become a threat. You can go after anyone you want, and you pretty much kill anyone you want. So I think his super is the main reason why he's so good. Of course, the 8,000 HP, and of course the recent buff allows him to get his super in one less hit, so that's also going to help. But of course, yeah, whether you're using his first star power, El Fuego, which is better against tanks, or you're using his speed star power, which is better against more ranged options, and of course, using his first gadget, if you're in a bush and there's a shelly, you could just toss the shelly out. So, yeah, El Primo definitely a really good option on these tank maps. Let's go over an honorable mention, and we'll head right into number 1. All right, and for the honorable mention, we have Max. Yeah, when I was calculating, Max came in at number 6, and yeah, even though Max is a really fast brawler and has a lot of DPS, which makes Max pretty decent against tanks, it's just not enough. Especially, you can just see how narrow these maps like Skull Creek is. So even though Max is a pretty decent tank counter, it's not enough to get rid of every tank, and eventually the map is going to collapse. And especially, there's a lot of spots here where you can, if you're a tank, you can just wait till the map gets close range, and then Max isn't really going to be able to do anything. However, Max is still a pretty solid counter against tanks, and that's why Max gets the honorable mention spot. Let's head into the best brawler for these tank maps according to the win rate. Alright, and coming in at number 1 is going to be Carl yet again. Carl has a decent amount of HP itself, has himself at 6,000. Decent range, high damaging attack, and especially with that power throw star power, you can just be shooting pickaxes super fast. He had the ability to shoot around walls, so these maps don't really phase him. In fact, they kind of help him because brawlers are not going to be able to hide around walls as easily as they would against other brawlers. His super, especially with his gadget, enables him to actually fight tanks in a 1v1. Obviously not all tanks, but a lot of tanks Carl can actually defeat with his super. And so it's for these reasons that Carl is going to be the number 1 brawler on these tank maps. Alright guys, that is going to do it for the video. Please let me know what you felt about the list in the comments below. Did I miss something? Did I put something wrong? Just let me know. And so yeah, these all these brawlers are mainly going to be good on these maps, except for Carl, and you could maybe push Jacky on some other maps. But for the most, and also Max too, but for the most part, with Bull, Primo, and Shelly, you're going to want to be pushing them on these 3 maps. Do not play those, in particular those 3, do not play them on the other maps. You're not going to be having a good time if you do. Yeah, that being said, thank you guys for watching. Make sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe, and peace.